Okay, we are live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. This is Tim Mai. Today I have Jeremy Ricci on the line with us today, and he's about to share with us how he uses a little name tag, if you can see there. But before we do that, he's gonna show us his business. He has a retail I buy houses retail store with his trucks and everything. So Jeremy, can you show us what you got there?
Yeah, sure. So we have a storefront here. It's on a very busy part. This is Route 309. It's a major interstate here. And we're maybe, I don't know, 20 feet from the road. And we have this whole I Buy Houses retail store. You can see it there. We got our trucks here, say I Buy Houses. We got like 3 of those trucks around. And the whole idea is that people, they got a billboard here when the truck's not here. And the whole idea is, hey, we're open for business. You want to come in and sell your house? People just stop in. This business is not something you look up in the phone book. People don't know exists until they have a need for it. And we have, we get these little trailers. We get them all wrapped.
Nice.
And it's like a billboard. And what I tell people is I need a place to work out of. So what I call this place is this is a billboard with some free office space that's attached.
That's right.
If you look at the cars, these cars pile up here. It's like crazy. We have 52,000 cars per day, and I have more than one. We have 2 of these locations.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is go back in our store here and sit down because it's really cold outside.
That's awesome. All right, that's some good marketing. I love that. And of course, that kind of marketing, a lot of people who are watching this video or listen to the interview here probably are starting out, and so they won't have the budget to be able to do that. However, you have something else that very easy that anyone can implement. You're wearing it. So
yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This is our little addicted to real estate name tag, and it basically just says, "Hi, my name is Jeremy. I'm addicted to real estate." And it's funny, I go on a lunch break, and let's say I go get a coffee somewhere or in some social network, social event, and I would just wear the name tag everywhere. And my kids roll their eyes, but at the end of the day, it makes you money. That truck wrap that you saw out there is about $2,000 to wrap that truck, right? But this little name tag was $7. And I wear the name tag, and people come up to me and they say, "What are you in a seminar somewhere or something?" I said, "No, I'm addicted to real estate. Wherever I go, I have to talk about it. Do you live in a house? Would you like to sell the house? Do you know somebody that wants to sell a house?"
I love it.
I'm a buyer.
I love that.
So it's just a conversation starter. There's a lot of people that get into the business, and this is a people business. You got to talk to people. And this is just an icebreaker. It's a way for people to say, "Hey, what's up with the name tag?" And then, then boom, you're in a conversation. What are you going to talk about? There's nothing else to talk about. Real estate.
I love that. And maybe if you pay your kids some advertising money, they might be willing to wear it on their shirt themselves.
Yeah, I'm working out a deal getting a new truck, and I'm gonna pay my brother-in-law to drive my truck around. He works at different Lowe's, like 5 different Lowe's that he works at. So I figured he could park it in the parking lot of Lowe's, and I'll help subsidize his car payment.
Dude, that's perfect.
Just to get the ad space. I'll tell you one thing though, it's kind of lazy marketing, because direct marketing, which I do a lot of direct mail marketing. I used to do more of it, but the direct mail marketing, it takes a lot of effort to get that marketing and consistency to get that out the door. But you wrap a truck or you put a storefront with a sign in the window, and that marketing is there when you sleep at night. It's there when you get up in the morning. It's there. It's there all the time. So like I said, it's a billboard with some free office space attached. I kind of like the idea of going someplace to work instead of working out of my house. I've tried it before, and I just end up doing laundry when I should be doing marketing, or end up doing marketing when I should be doing laundry.
You know what? I love it. All right, everybody. We're going to continue with the rest of our interview here. Make sure you keep an eye out for when we post the entire interview. Jeremy been doing this since 2001. He has a wealth amount of knowledge, everything from wholesaling to fix and flip. But his specialty is in rentals, your normal kind of rentals as well as vacation rentals. And so if you want to learn how to do creative deals, little no money down type deals, or even get paid to buy properties and keep it and get paid monthly cash flow on them, definitely keep an eye out on it. So with that, see you Facebook. We'll talk to you when the video goes live. Okay, Jeremy, we're going to continue with the rest of our interview here. Really, thank you so much. Like that was a great tour of your office. I love that.
Yeah, it's neat. It's it's something that's very different. You don't see a lot of people that open up shop like that. And I'll tell you, the other thing that really makes it special is that when people come to you for business and they see that you've been there. I've been here at this location. I've been here for 13 or 14 years at the same location. So people drive by it all the time, and let's say they get a bunch of letters in the mail from wholesalers or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're going to say, well, I don't know who this guy is. I got all these letters. And let's say I don't ever send them a letter. They'll come to me bringing their other letters and say, I get these things in the mail, but I just stopped in because I see you guys have been here a long time. So there's credibility with the fact that we're a brick and mortar business and not operating behind a P.O. box.
Right.
So that it helps out quite a bit. And everybody's bandit signs, I haven't put bandit signs out in 10 years. But everybody else's bandit signs, people think they're ours. So they stop in and say, I see your signs everywhere. Okay.
That's great. So take us back, on how you got started and at what point in your business did you get that retail office or retail space and how did you grow from there?
Okay, so I was in IT originally. I tinker with computers, like physical computers. Then I got into Microsoft certified into like the networking thing. Yep. And I was an IT manager for a company that did interpreting and translation for like 170 different languages. It was pretty neat company. But I was a salaried employee. I was making good money in my 20s. But I was pecking away at the computer, and I'd be working 70, 80 hours a week. Just to get everything done that I need to get done. And I just was, one day I was just thinking, man, I'm really working here to make somebody else rich. I'd like to start developing assets. And while I was working, the only money that I could accumulate was the money left over from what I brought in and what my expenses were. And I wasn't really building anything. So that's when I decided to look into real estate. And I've always kind of wanted to live in a duplex, live in one half, rent out the other half, kind of subsidized. So I started in the business out of thrift. I really just wanted to not pay for the place I was living in. I wanted to have other people pay for the place I was living in.
Smart.
Yeah. So I figured, I'd get a multi-unit property. But now that I look back, I said, what's the difference whether I have a multi-unit property or I have 4 houses and 3 of those houses pay for my house? So it doesn't really matter whether it's one, all 4 doors are on the same parcel, or if they're 4 different parcels. The whole idea is to have passive income coming in from other sources that you don't have to go out and work for over and over and over again. So that's kind of where. So I left my job. Let's see. I read a book and closed the cover and literally just gave notice cold turkey. Had never bought a property. I was this close to buying.
What book was that?
It was Cash Flow Quadrant, which was
Robert Kiyosaki.
It was Kiyosaki's second book. Yeah, it was the second book. But that's when you learn about being a business owner, being self-employed, or being an employee, and it just clicked with me. And I said, I got to do something about this. I was in where was I? San Antonio, Texas, at a trade show, and we were presenting our company at the trade show. And my boss's daughter was with me, and I said, you know what? I think I need to do something. I need to get into real estate. So I'm thinking about giving notice. And she says, what do you mean you're giving notice? So I told her not to tell the boss. So she said, well, the boss is my mom. I have to tell her. I said, all right, well, I'll let her know. So I ended up giving her a month's notice, but I said, I want to take the next week off. And I went to Costa Rica for a week. Went to Costa Rica and came back and started interviewing people to take my position. And I was off to the courthouse to do research on foreclosures and all sorts of stuff. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I did, my first deal was a wholesale deal. I actually did a double closing. I bought it and then I sold it 15 minutes later, and I made 15 grand in the first 15 days.
Nice.
After that, I wish every 15 days is like that. But it was a good start. It was a good start.
That's good. That's awesome. And it was it a foreclosure deal that you bought at the auction, or was it a pre-foreclosure? What was it?
Okay, so the very first deal I did was just driving around looking for ugly houses, and I saw a house that had an orange sticker on the side that said unfit for human habitation, do not enter. and I talked to the neighbors, found out what was going on, and I finally tracked down the guy from the code enforcement to they had like a social worker, from the social worker to a group home. From the group home, I finally found out where this guy was going to be, and I just kind of did a little detective work, and I found the owner, and I said, I'd like to buy your house. And when I found him, he was picking up the phone at a little newspaper stand, and I said, are you John? He said, yeah. And he hangs up the phone, and I said, I'd like to buy your house. He says, that's funny, I was just about to call a real estate agent. So I actually ended up buying the house directly from him, like 10 seconds before he was going to ring the phone of a real estate agent.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a fun business. Every deal is its own story,
Right. And so, all right. So how did you go from that first deal to, to having this retail space?
So I guess early on, I figured out that I just didn't want to work from home. I liked the whole idea of getting in my car and saying, okay, now I'm out of work mode and I'm going to be going home. Now, entrepreneur life, that really doesn't happen. You're working all around, and but at the same time, you're not working all around the clock too. Because if somebody told me today that I had my son was going to be performing in a concert, I'd close the store, I'd lock the door, and I'd go to the concert. So that's there's two sides of that coin. But also, like, Sunday night, and I have issues with a tenant, I'm dealing with that issue. So it's there's pros and cons, but with any business, you get to pick what the headaches are, and these are good headaches to have if you look at the upside. So,
right.
So from the retail store, so I wanted to have a space where I could go work, and my qualification was I wanted it to be free. So what I did was I
love your mindset. I want to live free. I want to have free rent for my office. I love that way of thinking because it forces you to get creative. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so I found two retail stores. It was a retail duplex, two retail stores side by side. I still own it today. I went to the owner. I tracked him down, and the place was empty for 3 or 4 years. And I went to him. I said, "Look, this place is empty. How about I buy it from you?" And we were back and forth negotiating. It turned out he wanted like $100,000 for the property, and I thought it was only worth maybe 60 or 70. So I started asking him questions, and he said, "I'm not going to take a penny less than $100,000. I'm not going to take a penny less for $100,000." So then I finally thought like myself, why don't I just give him the $100,000? He didn't say he needs it up front. He just said he needs the $100,000. So I ended up giving him $634 a month.
Nice.
For 13 years.
Nice.
And it worked out to be, $99,000 because I had to put $1,000 down.
Nice. Interest free also.
So you basically ask, you ask somebody what they want. And this guy said, so I figured that my payment to him, I could rent out one of the stores and cover my payment to this guy. And then I could use the other store. So he said, that's all well and good, but I'm going to need $25,000 down. And I said, what are you going to use the money for? And he said, well, I got this machines in my office and I want to build a garage on my house so that I could do my, he was into hobbies. He was making like leather goods or something for eBay. And he says, I'm going to need to build a garage because I don't have a place to put these machines anymore. So I said, wait a second. It's only me. So this store is 15 feet wide by 40 feet deep. I said, what if I just put a wall 20 feet back? So you have the back half and I'll have the front half. You can keep your machines here and we'll just share a bathroom. And he said, well, if that's the case, I don't need the $25,000 down.
Nice.
So you just have, the moral of the story is it's not money that people want. It's what the money can do for them that they want. So I had a mentor in Florida, Pete, who told me that. He said, it's
Fortunato?
It's what the money can do. Pete Fortunato. He's a brilliant guy. So it's not the money, it's what it can do for them. And if you start asking people what are they going to do with the money, they'll show you a path, and it's your job to connect the dots and try to make a deal work where most people aren't thoughtful enough to actually, to ask those questions and to come up with the answers. And instead of just saying, wow, I can't come up with $25,000, sorry, I say, what's the money for? So none of your business. They said, well, it's my money. I want to know what you're going to use it for.
Hey, that's true. It's funny, but I love that. You are super creative. Yeah, you're all about provide, coming up with with a solution for whatever it is that that you
And
want
why
to
is it
do.
that, why is it that he wanted the 100 grand for the property? Well, he just wanted to prove to his uncle that he could sell it for 100 grand. There's no reason. He just had some number. And if you see that, there's ways that you could find those too on the MLS. It's what I call no budge sellers. So if you see somebody that has a listing on the MLS for 6 months or 12 months and the price has not changed a bit, that's a no budge seller. So if you find out that they don't have a mortgage on the property or they have lots of equity in the property, give them their price and you set the terms.
I love that.
And I go to sellers all the time and say, wow, it doesn't sound like you're desperate for the money, are you? No, I'm not desperate. Then you say, okay, well, what if I just give you some money now and money later and money all the way, and then a big, and we work it out. And we do a lot of owner financing deals that way, and that's probably one of my favorite ways to buy deals.
That's really awesome. Now I noticed something I noticed about you. You're super friendly. You're very easygoing. I bet you can connect with people pretty quickly. Does that help you a lot in your business? And,
yeah, for sure.
And even I would even ask another question, which is like, is it required? What if someone is more introvert? Can they still, negotiate like the way that you do and get these owner financing type deals?
Well, there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate, right? So there's so many ways. I just met my neighbor he buys land and he scrapes 6 inches of dirt off of these huge acres, sells the dirt, and then sells the land. And he basically was 6 inches shorter than it was. Like, I'm just telling you, there's so many ways to make money in real estate. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He literally sells the top 6 inches of land and then sells the whole thing. And he usually makes money on selling the land after that. But anyway.
That's crazy.
I know. There's so many ways to make money. Timber, there's all, I heard of a guy that's buying up the outskirts of Detroit, and he's buying the junky houses that are vacant on the outskirts of Detroit, tearing them down. He's planting trees because it's cheaper to buy the houses that are vacant than it is to buy vacant land. So I don't know. I know, this is crazy. It's an awesome business. There's so many ways. So the point is, do you have to be extroverted or introverted? I would say for me, it works because I like knocking on doors and talking to sellers and just having that conversation of like, how can I help you? And when I set up my direct mail marketing, they call me. That's how can I help you? And I'm about how can I help them? And of course, they know that I'm in it to make a profit. I'll tell them that flat out. But there's several ways to make a profit. So when we get into, do you have to be extroverted? I don't think so, because I don't bid at real estate auctions, but what I find is that I think a lot of people that don't want to deal with the people, because otherwise they would be knocking on the door before the auction, not going to the auction. So when you go to the auction, now you're just bidding against other people. There's all this competition. I don't like that. I don't like competition. I want to be the only person talking to the seller. So when people are sending marketing out to foreclosure lists and the probate lists, there's a lot of competition in those spaces. Mm-hmm. With this retail store, the people call me, they're not on any list. They just all of a sudden have a need that they want to sell. Maybe they have a 2-bedroom and they just had triplets, There's no list that exists, for that. So I think, there's part of that. I like direct response marketing, but there's also part of the shotgun marketing that it's just there all the time. And the consistency of it and just having that retail location that gives some level of credibility and trust, the fact that you've been around. So, eventually in this business, you reach up the point where you're getting a lot of referral business, where you don't really have to do as much marketing. I'm not as aggressive with the marketing as I used to be, but you don't have to be. I mean, I just assume cold call landlords or knock on doors and something like this where it's just an icebreaker,
Right.
Even if somebody's shy, guess what? The other person's going to start the conversation with you. What are you going to do? Are you going to hide away, or are you going to say, no, I'm in the real estate business?
Yeah.
So,
That's
I don't know. I think there's different ways to do it. Maybe somebody that's not extroverted is not going to knock on doors, but maybe they're the type of person that would send out letters, and then they don't want to take the phone calls. Well, you could hire a call center to take the phone calls, and then you could just analyze deals. So there's so many pieces of the business. I think for me, I like dealing with people. So that's the part of the business that I put myself in, but there's so many other parts of the business. Now, I don't like having uncomfortable conversations. So I raise money and I find deals, and my business partner, he deals with the contractors and the tenants. Oh my gosh. I don't know that I could do that. Like being able to beat all the contractors and say, come on, show up for work tomorrow, that kind of, and then also the tenants, you're late on rent, so So that's the kind of stuff that I let him do, and I like the woo side of things, to be able to win over trust of people, and to to show people the way to get to their goals, and then we get there at the same time.
Right.
So,
That's really great, and I love you have I'm getting some feedback here, but I love that you have a business partner. Right, perfect.
is that better?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I love that you have a business partner that it's a more like tougher kind of personality, right? So that way, he doesn't get bullied and stuff like that. So that's awesome. So you do a lot of rentals. Why rentals? I mean, you see the quick cash that wholesaling can make. Why rentals?
Yeah, it's the wealth building strategy. Holding property is where the rich get rich because they own real estate, not because they used to own a piece of real estate. So I think if you're buying and selling property, that's okay. People say, well, I'm a real estate investor. I say, well, you're not a real estate investor. An investor is somebody that hangs on to stuff. You're a flipper, or you're a dealer, or you're something, but it's not an investor. Investor hangs on to property and keeps it for long term. So you're a real estate day trader, right?
Yeah.
Might be the other way to say it. A used house dealer.
Used house dealers.
Yeah. But as an investor, the whole idea is that, take that, the store that I was telling you about, I pay the guy $634 a month. Every time my rents there are $850 and I think about $850 a month on each side. So every time I get one of those payments, I pay down that $634 a month, and that house is, I own $634 more of the equity from that principal pay down because it's zero interest. So it's almost like you borrow a bunch of money and then you have your tenants pay it back. So if you can borrow millions of dollars and then have your tenants pay it back, I mean, by definition, you'll have millions of dollars. So
Right.
that's the game. And I think it's the reason that people don't do it is because they think they need to have all sorts of money to do it. And I can tell you don't. I mean, when I started, I didn't have any money. The reason I didn't give the guy $25,000 down to start is because I didn't have $25,000 down. $25,000, that's great. I'm 24,000 light. So you kind of take what you have and you make deals with what you can. And oftentimes, as Pete Fortunato would say, you're trading a promise for an asset. So they're giving you an asset, and you're giving them just a promise on the other side of it, that I promise to pay you every month. Right. And now you then take a promise from a tenant saying they promise to pay you, and you make a spread there, And it's not necessarily in the areas that I'm outside I'm in the suburbs of Philadelphia. So in the suburbs of Philadelphia, we're not a huge cash flow area. There's more appreciation. There's some parts of the city where ton of cash flow, but if you bought a house 20 years ago, it's worth the same thing today. But you'll make a lot of cash flow. So I kind of like ones where there's more of an upside, and I'm not too concerned about the cash flow, and that's because we tend to make money the day we buy properties.
Nice.
So we do, you've heard of cash out refis.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We do cash out FIs, cash out financing. We don't refinance.
So explain about that. Like, give us an insight into that. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so the way that I see that you can get the best of both worlds in this business is keep the properties, but you buy equity at a discount. So let's say that people are making 60 cents on the dollar offers, right? And then they'll sell it to another investor for 70 cents on the dollar, and they'll make 10 cents on the dollar. So I might get a place for 60 cents on the dollar, but instead of trying to find somebody with money that wants to buy it, I just find somebody with money that would like some income, and and they become a private lender. So instead of, it started out with me with family. I used my grandparents, I used my parents, I used people that I do business with. I went to my insurance agent, go to people that I pay monthly payments to already. Like, let's say your insurance, for instance. I just gave that example. I call up my insurance agent and say, how do you like getting payments from me every month? Oh, yeah, it's great. How would you like to get some more? I've had a relationship with this guy since I was 16 years old, So say, I'd like to talk to you about a deal that I have on the table. So instead of going to somebody that's looking to flip properties, there's many more people that have money, but they don't want to be flippers. So you can make them a private investor, and then you could then fix up the property and keep it. So instead of buying it for 60 cents on the dollar and selling it for 70 cents on the dollar, you made 10, let's say it's $100,000 property, you made 10 grand.
Right.
I'll borrow 70 cents on the dollar from the private investor, and I'll keep the 10 grand. And I'll keep the property. So I get the same 10 grand I would if I wholesaled it, but I get to keep the property. And the nicest thing about all that is the 10 grand is proceeds of a loan. It's not earned income.
Yes, that's
so
right.
At the end of the year, there's no taxes due on that money. There's only taxes due when you go to sell the property.
Right.
You don't sell it.
So technically, you're actually making even more, like 30% more than a wholesaler, at least 30% more than a wholesaler.
Yeah, because that $10,000 is taxable, and it's earned income, and it's subject to Social Security and Medicaid and FUTA tax. But if you buy a property, so basically I buy equity at a discount, and I borrow a little bit more than I need to do the deal, but not more than the deal's worth. But I borrow a little bit more than I need to do the deal. And my private lenders still have equity cushion above them so that they know that they're in a good position.
Right.
And I'm getting a cash paycheck at the closing table. So it's and then, now I own the property. It's just phenomenal. So
that's awesome.
The first time I did that, I did it by mistake. I actually went to wholesale a property and the guy backed out. And when the guy backed out, I had the property under contract for $25,000 and I was selling to him for $65,000. That was going to be a big wholesale deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
So $40,000 wholesale deal. The guy backed out like 2 days before closing, and I didn't know what to do. I was scrambling around, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" I said, "This is great." She goes, "What do you mean it's great?" I said, "Well, all I got to do is scrape together the 25 grand. We'll close on the property, and then we'll deal with it. We'll sell it after we close on it, or we'll figure it out." So I go into the bank after I scraped together. I did cash advances on credit cards. I borrowed like $8 grand from my grandmother, and then I put it all together and closed on the deal. Well, I go into the bank, and the bank. I asked the banker. He said, "You could get a line of credit on that property." He said, "How much did you buy it for?" Well, I always record like a $10 deed because I don't think it's anybody's business what I paid for a property.
Right.
I record like a $10 deed. I just tell the title company, do a nominal deed. You still have to pay the same taxes and all that stuff. But I go to the banker and he says, "Well, we'll give you 80% of whatever the purchase price is, or the appraised value, whichever is less." So I said, "Well, it's a $10 deed. Does that mean you're going to give me $8?" He says, "No, we'll just do an appraisal." So on this particular property, it appraised for $92,000.
Nice.
I got a line of credit for 80 grand. I don't know how it ended up being 80 grand, but it was $80,000 line of credit. So I paid my grandmother back, paid my credit cards off, and then the next check I wrote was to me for $40,000.
Nice.
And what I call that is that's my wholesale fee to myself.
Right.
So I wholesaled the property to myself. The $40,000 that I was going to get as a wholesale fee, I got, and it was proceeds of loan, which aren't taxable.
Right.
Now, in addition to that, I got all of the equity that I was going to give to the flipper that was going to buy it, right? And I got the rental income, the spread in my payment to the line of credit that I had, and what my rent was. I got all that spread. I did it as a rent to own, so I got the down payment money from the rent to own person on top of that. So and I got to depreciate the property and all the tax benefits of depreciating it. So after I did that, I'm like, this is crazy. Why would I ever wholesale something again? I just keep it.
That's beautiful. Wow.
You wholesale it to yourself instead of finding somebody else. And the only difference is you're finding somebody with cash that doesn't want to fix the property, that would just be like to make money on their money, versus finding a flipper that has money that is going to be flipping it or renting it or whatever.
Right.
So that's the only difference. Yeah, you need to know how to fix up things, and there's some other things that go along, but that's the idea.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And then, so now, we're running out of time here, but I really want you to touch on the vacation rentals. How did you get into that? And I've never done vacation rentals, and I heard it's very lucrative. So speak into that, please.
So it's kind of like a value-added real estate. My business partner has executive suite centers where you instead of renting per square foot, you're renting like a fully furnished office. And it comes with a receptionist, and it comes with a copying machine. So when you start renting that way, it's not just a price per square foot. You're getting all these amenities, right? And people will pay more for those amenities if they don't have to deal with all that stuff. So the same thing with student rentals. If you ever talk to somebody that does student rentals, they rent a furnished room in a building, and let's say you could get $1,000 a month for the building.
Right.
You put furniture in there, and now you're getting $600 per room. So now with the vacation rentals, the same thing. We were looking for a place to buy when the market went down, trying to find like, okay, the market went south. Where can we buy some good property? And there was a couple in Texas that the market had gone down, definitely in Arizona and Vegas. But Florida had 3 markets. It was Sarasota, Miami, and Cape Coral area that were like in the top 10 or worst 10, markets that the downturn happened. So we looked at all 3 of those, and we ended up on Sarasota. We sold our property that we had in Philadelphia, got out of the city of Philadelphia, just couldn't stand dealing with the government in Philadelphia, and went down to Sarasota and decided, we could buy a place. This is kind of the same thing. We wanted a vacation rental, but it had to be free. So what you do is we had a side-by-side vacation rental duplex. There's like a theme here. I don't know. We rented out one side to an annual tenant. The other side, we fixed it up. We put furniture in it. And then we rented that out short term. And then when it's not in use by other people for rent, we can go down and use it ourselves.
Right.
So, from a tax perspective, you're only allowed to use it, I think, 2 weeks of the year. So, we had to go out. If we wanted to stay more than 2 weeks, we had to go out and buy more property. So I can stay 2 weeks in this one and 2 weeks in that one. And I actually bought the whole street of duplexes. I think we have 8 duplexes on one street down there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. So, if you can only stay in 1 2 weeks, you got to jump over to the next one.
That's awesome. And what kind, how much more are we talking about? Give us an example,
So when we first started, the numbers have gone up since, but when we first started, it was $750 a month would be a normal monthly rental that I can get, and it's a little 800 square foot duplex, and one side of it's 800 square feet, the other side is 800 square feet. So $750 a month I can get for the one side. If I fix up and furnish the other side, and I put internet and I put cable and I make it look nice, takes pictures of it, put it online and advertise it, I'm getting, about, in the beginning it was $3,000 a month. So from $750 to $3,000 a month. Now, that's not every month, but that's in the peak season, in the wintertime, right now, when everybody wants to be down in Florida when it's really cold. I know it's a little bit cold where you are now, but up in the Northeast here, it's really cold. So we get people that want to come down and stay for a month or 2 months or 3 months or even a week. And, we're talking, if I get $9,000 a year on the one side, the other side gets $9,000 just for winter. And then the rest of the year is gravy. So it's a great business. And just the personal use, it's a lifestyle thing. I've been in the business a while. It's kind of nice to, if I have a row home in Philly that goes vacant, I don't exactly grab my wife by the arm and say, hey, honey, let's go stay for a couple days. Now in Florida, by the beach, if we have a place that goes vacant, it's not a bad conversation to have with your wife.
Exactly. That's awesome. Wow, I love that. Jeremy, you have shared so much on this interview with us already. I'm sure the listeners now in love with you and want to, reach out to you and get in touch with you somehow. Where do you want to send them?
I can give them a way to do that, yeah. So if you want to check out our vacation rentals, the best thing to do is stay in one.
Perfect.
We're in Siesta Key. Our website's gosiesta.com. Gosiesta.com is our vacation rental website. And we're even doing something that's really cool. And I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag on this. I bought an RV park down there. And we're taking the RVs out. And we're putting those, we're building, and I already bought 7 of them, tiny houses on wheels. You ever see those on the TV shows?
Yeah.
Tiny houses on wheels? Okay. So I'm filling the RV park with tiny houses on wheels, and you'll be able to rent the tiny house for a week and go to the beach.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Is that cool?
Dude, that is so cool. That is...
And that's easy. It's tinyhouseforaweek.com. So if anybody wants to rent a tiny house, we're just putting this together. It's going to be the first tiny house vacation rental resort by the beach in the country.
Oh my God, that's an amazing idea. I love you.
You gonna come stay in one?
I'm gonna have to tell my wife. We gotta go check it out.
I'm going down tomorrow. We're gonna get tomorrow. Actually, we're getting a 3-bedroom model delivered, It's got a first floor master bedroom and then 2 lofts. So my wife and I would probably take the master and put the kids up in the loft.
Yeah.
And full kitchen. It's neat. It's I went from the real estate business to the wheel estate business.
Real estate business. How much are one of those tiny houses?
We're probably they're probably about, the hotel rooms go for maybe about 170 a night. So we're going to be at somewhere between 160 to 200 a night for a tiny house.
Gotcha.
So figure $1,400 a week, to be able to stay in a tiny house and take selfies and put them on Facebook for all your friends to check it off your bucket list.
I love that. I love that.
Those TV shows, they love those TV shows. So this is an opportunity. A lot of people wouldn't live in one full time, but they might check one out for a week. And this is an opportunity.
It's a fun experience for sure.
Yeah, it'd be neat.
Yeah, and how much, like, to buy one of those, how much do they run?
It's all the full gamut. Like, I was just at a trade show where I was an exhibitor there for a tiny house vacation rentals, and I mean, there was one that I just saw sold for $28,000, and there's another one that sold for $90,000. So I mean, it depends on size matters.
Right.
It depends on size. It depends on amenities. Just like a house, you could put Formica or you can put granite. You could put a one-piece plastic insert, or you can do custom marble. So it all depends on the finishes. It's more expensive per square foot than a regular house because they have to fit all of the complicated components of a house have to fit all in a small space. So if you think about like a stove, a 30-inch stove, they mass produce it. You can get them pretty cheap, but to get a 20-inch stove, it's more expensive because it's not as mass produced.
Right.
Tiny things come with bigger prices.
No kidding. No kidding. All right. So one last question for you, Jeremy. I love entrepreneurship. I believe that all entrepreneurs are heroes. Do you see yourself as a hero?
As a hero? I tell you, I guess I like to live by example. So I'd like to see that my kids, get to see their dad at all the events and get to see the freedom that entrepreneurship gives me and want to be an entrepreneurs themselves in order to have that same freedom. So I would say, at least I'd like to be for at least my kids and other people, we'll see. Right. I love talking about real estate. So I know you've been teaching real estate business and we do some of that too, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you're definitely a hero in my eyes. I mean, look at the difference, not just your kids, your family, but all the homeowners that you served, all of the investors that you served. So yeah, thank you so much for who you are, and thank you so much for doing this interview with me. You've been super, super generous. You shared everything, and and the tour of your office was a super bonus.
Yeah, if you want to see, I mean, it was probably pretty grainy, but if you want to see pictures of that, it's iBuyHousesStore.com. So we actually have the retail store, the iBuyHouses store.
iBuyHouses store. I love that. Awesome, Jeremy. Thank you so much, buddy, for this interview. Everyone watching or listening, thank you so much for tuning in. We're looking forward to, well, actually, before you do that, before you go, if you like this interview, make sure you leave us feedbacks, comments, share it with your friends, and we'll see you on the next interview. All right, everybody. See you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.